Let's break down why Donald Trump emerged as the clear winner in the Iowa caucus and why his victory holds such significant implications for the Republican Party. Despite the relentless criticism from the mainstream media, where Trump is frequently cast as a figure who's gone too far and is unfit for office, the results from Iowa tell a very different story. It appears that many Republican voters are not swayed by the media's portrayal of Trump. Instead, they remain steadfast in their support for him, even in the face of overwhelming controversy. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button like this video and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Over the past several months, the media has been abuzz with speculation, debates, and polls, all trying to predict who would become the Republican frontrunner for the 2024 presidential election. However, when it was finally time for Iowa Republicans to make their voices heard, they did so with resounding clarity by choosing Donald Trump. He secured approximately 50% of the vote, a commanding lead over his closest competitors, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, who each garnered around 20%. This result wasn't entirely unexpected. Pre-caucus polls had consistently shown Trump with a significant lead, but the margin of victory underscores just how deeply entrenched his support remains within the party. This outcome tells us a lot about the current state of the Republican Party. Trump's grip on the GOP is as strong as ever. Neither the fallout from his baseless claims that the 2020 election was rigged nor the mountain of legal troubles, 91 criminal charges to be exact, has deterred his base. In fact, many Republicans not only believe his disputed claims about the 2020 election, but also continue to see him as the right person to lead the country, even if he ends up being convicted of a crime. The Iowa caucus results showed that 2/3 of Republicans who participated agree with Trump's assertion that Joe Biden's victory in 2020 was illegitimate. This level of support, despite everything, is truly remarkable and speaks volumes about Trump's enduring influence within the party. Trump's victory in Iowa is even more impressive when you consider the conditions. The turnout was lower than usual, which isn't surprising given the harsh weather. Temperatures plummeted to -5 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet despite these challenges, Trump managed to win across most demographic groups. The only exception was younger Republicans who showed more support for DeSantis. What's particularly interesting is that Trump didn't even spend much time campaigning in Iowa, unlike his rivals. However, his name recognition and a much improved ground game, something that was lacking in his 2016 campaign, were enough to secure his win this time around. One of the most striking takeaways from the Iowa results is the shift in priorities among Republican voters. Typically, the economy tops the list of concerns. But in this case, immigration emerged as the number one issue, with 40% of voters citing it as their primary concern. This shift is significant, and it highlights the ongoing importance of immigration in the minds of Republican voters. Even though Trump's efforts to address illegal immigration during his presidency were largely seen as ineffective, his infamous wall along the southern border was never fully realized. Republicans still seem to believe that he is the one who can fix the problem if given another chance. Another critical factor that played into Trump's victory is the perception of his electability. About 3/4 of Republicans believe that the ability to defeat Joe Biden in November is of utmost importance, and a majority of those voters chose Trump. This is particularly interesting given that Trump's critics within the party have long argued that he's unelectable, pointing to the GOP's underperformance in the 2018 midterms, the 2020 presidential election, and the 2022 midterms as evidence. However, recent polls show Trump slightly edging out Biden in a potential rematch, which has made the electability argument less compelling for many Republicans. It seems that for a significant portion of the OP, Trump is still seen as the best chance to reclaim the White House. It's also worth noting that nearly 70% of Iowa Republicans had made up their minds about who to support more than a month before the caucus. This suggests that many voters were already firmly committed to Trump and weren't seriously considering other candidates. This level of unwavering support, even after all the controversies, legal battles, and criminal charges Trump faces, poses a significant challenge for his GOP opponent. It's a testament to the deep loyalty that a large segment of the Republican base has for Trump, a loyalty that has proven incredibly difficult for other candidates to overcome. Now let's talk about Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, who both managed to pick up some delegates in Iowa, but are facing an uphill battle if they hope to catch up to Trump. Of the two, Nikki Haley appears to be in a slightly better position moving forward. While she was far behind Trump in Iowa, her performance was arguably above expectations, which could give her some momentum as the race moves to New Hampshire and South Carolina, her home state, where she has a solid chance of doing well. Haley represents the more traditional pre-Trump Republican establishment, and she has a clear path to consolidate the support among Republicans who are looking for an alternative to Trump. Ron DeSantis, on the other hand, finds himself in a more challenging position. Despite his numerous successes as governor of Florida, such as overseeing economic growth, managing the state's inward migration, and his high-profile stance against COVID lockdowns and wokeness, he has struggled to translate these achievements into national support. In Iowa, DeSantis was the target of a massive $46.05 million blitz aimed at undermining his campaign, a sign that he's seen as a serious threat by his opponents. However, despite all the time and resources his campaign poured into Iowa, his results were underwhelming. DeSantis managed to secure a respectable share of the vote, but given the effort his campaign invested, it's hard to see this as anything but disappointing. For DeSantis to have a real shot at overtaking Trump, it seems that some unexpected event or shift in the race will be necessary. While we can't write off DeSantis' campaign just yet, his performance in Iowa has raised serious questions about why his campaign hasn't gained more traction. One of the key issues seems to be his reluctance to directly confront Trump early on in the race. DeSantis needed to make a strong case to Trump's base about why they should switch their support to him. But so far, he hasn't been able to do that effectively. For instance, DeSantis' attempts to criticize Anthony Fauci, the chief medical advisor during the COVID pandemic, fell flat because he avoided directly blaming Trump for the lockdowns, even though it was under Trump's administration that they were implemented. By not taking a more aggressive stance against Trump, DeSantis missed an opportunity to distinguish himself and build on his anti-lockdown credentials. DeSantis also has a point when he says that the numerous indictments against Trump have sucked the oxygen out of the room in the Republican primaries. Each time a new charge was brought against Trump, it seemed to only strengthen his position within the party, rallying GOP donors, media, and voters to his defense. This has made Trump appear almost untouchable, turning him into a martyr figure for many Republicans. As a result, Trump's lead over DeSantis has only grown, making it increasingly difficult for other candidates to gain traction. However, it's important to note that supporting Trump just to stick it to the Democrats or as a reaction to what many Republicans see as unfair treatment by the Justice Department isn't necessarily a solid strategy for choosing the next president. Trump carries significant baggage, including the very real possibility that he could be a convicted criminal by the time the general election rolls around. His first term in office was marked by erratic behavior, an inability to govern effectively, and a blatant disregard for democratic norm. Nominating Trump just to own the libs might feel satisfying in the short term, but it could also be a risky move for the Republican Party in the long run. As we look ahead to the upcoming primaries, it's clear that the race for the Republican nomination is far from over. There are still many twists and turns to come, and anything could happen. But after Iowa, it's evident that a significant portion of the Republican Party is still willing to take a chance on Donald Trump, despite all the controversy and legal troubles that surround him. Whether this loyalty will carry him all the way to the nomination and potentially back to the White House remains to be seen. But for now, Trump's victory in Iowa is a strong signal that he is still a force to be reckoned with in the Republican Party.